Hello, it's Philip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers. I'm talking about another book in the series of publications which have recently appeared about the mental health legislation. This one is by Richard Jones. It's the Mental Capacity Act Manual, and it's in its third edition, and it's from Sweet and Maxwell. This is the book here. It's my Flickr reference to it with a short review. The book itself is very much the standard approach by Sweet and Maxwell, with the standard paragraph numbering on the sides. Obviously, as it's dealing with the legislation, there's a substantial amount of information about the Act of Parliament, or the various acts of Parliament, but with specific reference to the MCA. Part 5, I think, is probably the most important because it deals with deprivation of liberty and the various safeguards in the new legislation and, of course, the new codes of practice. We've also got a substantial index at the back, and it follows the normal pattern of information which Sweet and Maxwell are renowned. Now, given the review, and this is one of a series of reviews that I have produced because I teach this course on mental health at Distance Learning Partnership and other places, but for the internet I've called it Mental Capacity Updated by the MHA 2007, because you have to take both the current Capacity Act with the 2007 legislation plus the codes of practice to see where we are today with this legislation, which gets me on to the author. Because as he says, and the author is Richard Jones, he points out that in this preface to the new book, that the Mental Capacity Act has been substantially amended by the Mental Health Act 2007, and to put in place, as a result, a procedure, which I've just referred to, that can be used to take away the liberty of a mentally incapacitated person. This is following on from the government's response to the findings of the European Court of Human Rights case known as Bournemouth, which many will be familiar with. And it's obviously received a lot of comment in the press and in the law journals. Now, Mr. Jones' disapproval of all of this is made quite clear in the book. He's a highly respected authority on mental health law, and he says in effect that the government could simply have made minor amendments to the 1983 Mental Health Act and still have achieved its objective. Instead, the new Act is, in his words, quote, hugely complex, voluminous, overtly bureaucratic, and difficult to understand, and yet provides mentally incapacitated people with minimum safeguards. So it's not a very happy bunny, putting it bluntly. In yet another case, we ask ourselves, is this too little, too late in terms of clarity, matched by or caused by a remote, careless and complacent bureaucracy, which has created yet another piece of flawed legislation which can impact seriously on the lives of ordinary people, particularly the vulnerable? That really is the question that was raised in many of the academic comments on Bournemouth and what happened afterwards. Some people think so, notably the Joint Committee on Human Rights, because this of course is tied up with that legislation. Jones quotes here from the committee's legislative scrutiny of the Mental Health Bill. Now, you'll be aware, before I give you the quote, that again there's a lot of dissatisfaction with this piece of legislation. What he says here is the proposals to amend the Mental Capacity Act, that's 2005 Act, are detailed and complex, and we question whether they will be readily understood by proprietors of residential care homes, even with the benefit of professional advice. So you can see that there were concerns, certainly by their lordships, I'm well aware of that. This is of course only one example of the problem. but it's a good reason, really as any, as to why you should get the book if you're a professional involved with this difficult and vexed area of law. The book provides, as to be expected, a ready reference to and explanation of the scope of the Mental Capacity Act, and usefully, I think, it clarifies the interaction between the Act and the Mental Health Act 2007, paying particular attention to the new deprivation of liberty safeguards, which I've highlighted. That's at the back, part 5 at the back of the book, following Bournemouth. Now, clearly, when you look at any of the books on the market, you will find there's this dichotomy between the two pieces of legislation. We're in a very unsatisfactory area. But what he's tried to do here is give as clear a picture as possible. He's also talked about the supplement to the codes of practice which have been coming in during 2008, which give guidance on safeguards, as well as extensive quotations and references to the code of practice in the annotations. And obviously that's what we have to look at, because that's the way the law has gone in terms of its practical application. The book guides you section by section, therefore, through the Act, and it covers all the changes and developments that have occurred with it, including the following: amendments made to the Capacity Act by the 2007 Act, an analysis of the implications of the regulations which have been issues under the Act, an examination of the common law principles relating to incapacity, which I think is actually very helpful, and an outline of the rules and responsibilities of the Court of Protection and its role in dealing with disputes over care and treatment. Can I just say, on the Court of Protection there are specific books, but this is a manual, so it gives you the overall picture. But if you need the Court of Protection stuff, you need to go to the main area for that, of which all the main publishers have good reference materials. And for practitioners, therefore, specialising in mental health law, the aptly named MCA manual is particularly valuable in my view, because it, especially in its largely successful attempt to assign some clarity to that which is often opaque. It's a great addition in my view to your law library, and the reason I say that is because this is a misunderstood area of practice, and one we need to know a bit more about. So I do recommend the work by Mr. Jones. He's got other books as well, but this is a good one. Thank you very much. Bye bye.